Hello and welcome back. You are watching the X-Play Weekly live show with me, Adam Burt, and him, Dan Thomas. Dan,
Hello.
How's it going?
I'm very good, thank you, Adam. How are you?
I'm good because we are celebrating 20 years of Xbox. The official date was Monday, 15th of November, was the 20-year anniversary of the original Xbox console launching in the US, and we're celebrating. We're in a celebratory mood. We haven't got any more Xbox-themed birthday cake, but we are going to talk about the legacy of the Xbox and about what it meant to the games industry, talk about some of our favourite moments, our favourite features, and yeah, does that sound good to you?
Sounds very good. I feel like you've really got into the 20 years of Xbox spirit. I'm getting a real fanboy vibe on Team Xbox from you, this show.
I mean,
which is good. They deserve it. 20 years.
Yeah, and they've done a lot this week. You know, there's a lot of Xbox-related news, a lot of Xbox-related content to talk about. If you're interested in more news from us in general, make sure you check out tomorrow's roundup, which is going to be posted on xuk.com/play. We're rounding up all the biggest news stories from the week in the world of games in text form, including, I imagine, lots of Xbox-related stuff. So let's talk about the Xbox. I mean, the origins of the Xbox, 2001, Microsoft had a desire to compete in the living room, inspired directly by Sony claiming that PlayStation 2 was going to be on par with personal computers. And obviously, at the time, they had worked on some keyboard and mice, but other than that, Microsoft was a software company, not a hardware company. So it was a bit of a massive uphill battle internally that eventually won the support of Bill Gates, who was then the CEO of Microsoft. They're actually releasing a documentary really soon called Power On, all about the history of how the Xbox got made, which I'm sure will be worth checking out when it comes out. But what do you remember about that launch, Dan? Do you remember the Xbox coming out?
I do. I actually remember getting a magazine, I think one of the first Xbox magazines before the Xbox was available, with a Show My Age, a VHS preview of all that was going to be unleashed upon our lives in the new era of Xbox gaming, and yeah, I was very, very excited for it. And I don't recall seeing a lot of the kind of I've seen it since, kind of like the whole The Rock appearing with Bill Gates and all of those kinds of things, but obviously we didn't have in ubiquitous internet video at the time. So yeah, those sorts of things I've learned about it since. But yeah, I do remember being particularly excited for it. It certainly was everywhere in the more traditional media formats.
Yeah. And obviously the Xbox kind of ensured a competitive marketplace. We had Sega with the Dreamcast starting to maybe fade away a little bit. I mean, Dreamcast was a fantastic console that was killed before its time, if you ask me. But definitely there was a bit of a void there in terms of somebody who was, you know, trying to take it directly to Sony, trying to challenge them on their terms. Nintendo were always there doing their own thing regardless. But I think that competition is good for the industry, right? It's good for consumers, it's good for everybody, for there to be a competitive games maker market.
Definitely, it was good to see kind of the new era of major brands battling out when it was, like I say, kind of historically was Nintendo, Sega. That was kind of like the late 80s, 90s sort of battle, and then obviously PlayStation came in, so it was definitely high time for somebody to step up, and it stimulates so much more innovation and pricing models and all these kinds of things. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, definitely. One of the other ways that Xbox really influenced the console landscape is that it included a built-in hard drive, a significant one as well. It was at the time pretty sizable, which obviously is something that every major console since has adopted and has really led to kind of a change in the way that games are bought and stored and all those sorts of things. You think about the rise of the digital download, which just wouldn't have been possible without significant hard drives inside consoles themselves. And then there's, I guess, the elephant in the room is Halo, without which the Xbox might have died a very early death. It might not have survived that long without it. But Halo set new standards for first-person shooter blockbusters, especially on console, standardizing dual-stick controls, bringing networked multiplayer to consoles, which is something that had previously been the domain of PCs only, and just being that kind of, you know, huge franchise, became a mid-light launch franchise for them with Halo 2 and 3, a real focal title for the Xbox to this day, really. I mean, Halo Infinite has got its own challenges, obviously, but it's still a marquee title for the brand, isn't it?
Absolutely, and yeah, exactly as you said. Kind of, what would the Xbox have? Would we still have Xbox today if they hadn't have unleashed a Halo on us at the same time as the console?
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Do you have fond memories of Halo? I know that I do. I talk about that all the time on the show.
Yeah, no, very much so, and yeah, absolutely. It was synonymous with wanting an Xbox. It was largely because look at Halo, and I got super hyped for every release in that series. Even the modern ones, I still get excited for. Infinite, even Halo 5, and yeah, that's just I don't know how much of that is hanging on the nostalgia of the originals, but yeah, I definitely think so.
One of the other ways that the Xbox was a bit of a sea change for consoles was the way that it really pioneered online services. So the original Xbox had a built-in Ethernet port, which was a bit of a gamble, really, but kind of paid off. They kind of bet all the chips on broadband adoption, becoming a huge deal in the home, which it did. We know that it skyrocketed. And Xbox Live was launched, as well as setting the standard in terms of how online services would work on a console. It was arguably one of the first major media subscriptions. This was before the days of Netflix or Spotify. People weren't really paying for things monthly or yearly that got them media access, and Xbox Live was kind of part of that initial wave. Obviously, a lot of people have opinions about that, especially nowadays, whether that's still justified, as the industry has moved on a lot since then. But at the time, it was a huge deal, obviously a major success for them. Do you remember getting involved in Xbox Live? Was that...
I do. I think more so with the 360, or certainly later, because 2001, we were only at the dawn of kind of home broadband. Really, I'm pretty sure it wasn't that a lot of internet connectivity was still over dial-up, and certainly the download speeds and things weren't what they are today. But no, yeah, that, as you say, absolutely pivotal and really shifted the landscape for what we expect from console gaming.
Yeah, and then obviously, so Xbox Live, the service, launched in 2002, about a year later, and then really there was games like MotoGP and stuff you could play, and Ghost Recon, but Halo 2, coming hot off the heels of Halo 1, which helped sell the console, Halo 2 really helped to sell the service and became, obviously, a worldwide phenomenon. The Xbox was only around, and this is quite a strange thing to think about, because we think about it as having quite a big impact, but it was only their primary console for 4 years before it was replaced by the Xbox 360. But had a relatively amazing library given its short life. I know it was, in terms of generations, it was up against the PlayStation 2, which has arguably the best games library of all time. But they had a lot of great games on the Xbox, and I thought we would maybe have a chat about those. Whether you've got any particular fond Xbox memories, whether there's any underappreciated Xbox game gems. What games do you think of when we talk about the history of the Xbox?
Yeah, it's when you kind of mention about underappreciated games, I was thinking back, and like I said, it was a short window, and for me, it was kind of a period of my life. I was at university, starting a business. I was quite busy, but which is why Halo sticks out so much. Like that was the one focal point, and there was a lot else going on. But I do also remember, and it's certainly not what I would consider. Well, I guess in that short window, any Xbox title is underappreciated because there was only a short window of time for them. Project Gotham 2 sticks out as a standout memory for me, because that was kind of one of the games that I'd played a lot of on the Dreamcast, as you mentioned, and then it launching on the Xbox kind of showed the step change in, I guess, the generations. So that stands out. As a university student, ISS 2, a football game that wasn't particularly a great
Good.
game. No, it wasn't, and it was like they only really there was I don't know, there was like 7 or 8 different international superstar soccer games, but that was the only one that came out on Xbox. So that got a lot of attention in my university life. But I think the I would say underappreciated is the user interface, the dashboard of the original Xbox. Like up until that point, we'd had obviously Nintendo, Sega, the Dreamcast being kind of the most recent thing. Like it was all quite flat and cute, shall we say? And it just felt like a real. It was also not that far after kind of the Matrix, so it kind of maybe following that green.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Immersive virtual world, and I was just looking at I was just watching some YouTube videos of the original Xbox Dash, and I just think it was brilliant. It was so much different. It was like 3D, and you kind of zoomed into places and outer spaces. So yeah, I think Xbox UI is the underappreciated hero in my eyes.
Yeah, I missed the dashboard blades from the 360 era. One of mine is Crimson Skies. I think is a game. I can't believe they've not rebooted this at some point. But Crimson Skies was really great, and the folks home can see a bit of it now. Really great plane dogfighting game set in an alternate history, and that was fantastic. Jet Set Radio Future is a game that I have a lot of affection for. We've talked about that on the show before, I'm sure. But really, you talked about picking up the torch from Sega, and we know that some staff like Peter Moore went from Sega to Xbox. There's also a lot of kind of like Dreamcast was just like, have my games, continue on without me. I'm not going to make it. And we see that with games like Phantasy Star Online as well, and all those sorts of things, which I think is really fascinating. So Jet Set Radio Future is definitely another one for me. I spent a lot of time with. I actually got that on. I had the bundle that came with Sega's GT Rally 2002 and Jet Set Radio Future on like a combined disc, which was really nice.
Do you remember getting your original Xbox?
Yeah, I do, because I got it for Christmas, and it was Christmas after it came out, and I remember I was incredibly ill, like I couldn't really eat or do anything, so I was like, guess I'm gonna play this.
How convenient.
Yeah, I remember I tried to eat a Dairy Milk Celebration, a single one, or a Dairy Milk Hero. I put it in my mouth, swallowed it, threw it straight back up, and I was like, this sucks, but
do you get so excited around these launches? I seem to think you've been ill recently around the launch of Forza Horizon 5. Maybe
that's it.
Allergic to excitement.
I mean, if I was, I never would have got through Halo 3's launch otherwise. So yeah, I had the console, I had that demo disc, I had Halo, which was the primary reason I wanted it. I was like, just give me Halo, I don't care about anything else. I'll play the first one level of Halo over and over again. I'd be happy with that. And I had Splinter Cell as well, which I didn't really get on with. You know that I hate stealth games, but at the time I didn't know that. I thought it was very impressive visually and all those sorts of things. I know that's a popular franchise that people wish would come back as well. One last rogue choice from me, a game that everyone else I think has forgotten. You remember a game called Kung Fu Chaos? What a great game that was.
I don't remember Kung Fu Chaos specifically, no.
There was so many games on the Xbox and the PS2 as well, to be fair, that were just like these party games where you just fight little characters, and they were like all just living in the shadow of Smash Brothers, I guess. And nothing really had this kind of purchase power that did. You had things like Whacked on the Xbox as well, and Fusion Frenzy. They're all in this kind of niche of like.
I did look. I was like, when I was trying to see like what are some underappreciated gems. I was like, what fighting games were there? And I was just reams and reams of like, I don't remember any of these.
Dead or Alive. That was classic on the Xbox as well. And then obviously, we've talked about that Halo was such a huge part of it. Like so many Halo memories, whether it's LAN memories, whether it's Xbox Live memories. I remember we did have a LAN party for a friend of mine's birthday, and just that being the most exciting thing in the world to play Halo with 12 of us on 3 consoles just felt ridiculous. And look at us now, playing multiplayer with hundreds of people online all the time.
And nowhere near as good as we thought we were.